Okay, good morning, everyone. Today we are going to hear a story about God and the people of God, and this goes all the way back, almost to the very beginning. We've heard before how God created the world and all the wonderful things He created, and this story expands on that and talks specifically about God and people. And so when God created the world, He saw that it was good. And God created all the creatures in the world to be like Him, to be like God. And the people and the creatures and the animals all lived in a garden, a great garden. And we call this the Garden of Eden. And everything was close. All the rocks, the animals, the people, and God were all together. And all the people were one person. And we used their word for that, which was Adam. There was Adam, and also there was Eve, who came from Adam. And they were together. They were Adam, Eve. Now in the garden, there were two trees. And God told Adam, Eve, not to eat the fruit of these two trees. One, He called the tree of differences. Sometimes we call this the tree of knowledge. You may hear it called that also. And there was the tree of forever. So God told Adam, Eve, not to eat from these two trees. Now, there were many other creatures in the garden, and of all the creatures, the serpent, which is like a snake, the serpent was the most clever. And the serpent came to Adam and Eve and told them that they should eat from the tree of difference. And they heard this, and they decided to do that. But then something happened when they ate the fruit from the tree of difference. All of a sudden, things came apart. There were many differences, and they were aware of these differences. There was now Adam, and there was Eve. And there were many things that were different now that they saw. Things were not all together. They were not directly with God now, and other things came apart. Now God came and looked for them, and Adam and Eve tried to hide. They were afraid now. They weren't sure what God would think. But God found them and knew that they had eaten from the tree of differences. And so now, Adam and Eve were aware of all differences, how things were different. And what do we mean? Well, there was now Adam and Eve. There was God and people. There was good and evil. Also, there was far and close, and high and low. Their world was now one of differences, where things were not all the same, were not all together. And while Adam and Eve were afraid, there was also something wonderful that came from these differences. People were now able to create things from the differences that were made. From all the differences, they could build things, create things, almost like God, but not quite. They could create things from other things, but they could not create things from nothing. Now God told Adam and Eve that because of the differences and their awareness, they could no longer live in the garden. They would have to go out of the garden into the world. And so God put an angel with a sword at the entrance to the garden, and he told Adam and Eve that they must go from there. They must go out into the world. They must go forward. They could not look back. And so Adam and Eve went out in the world. And although God was not a part of them as he had been before, he was still with them. And he told them that he would always be with them. And this is something that we'll talk about in our stories this fall. How as the people go out in the world and learn about themselves, learn about differences, how they can also find that when they reach out, God is still with them. Even though they are out of the garden, God is still with them and will help them to learn how to live a good life.